All right, welcome back. Or you didn't go anywhere. We went somewhere. We went to the green room, which is our version of getting ready. And again, thanks to Heather Pham for doing the IT tech during this session. Next up, we have preventing oil spills with Betsi Oliver. She's the outreach coordinator of the Prince William Sound Regional Citizen Advisory Council and our real head tech person here has really made this whole thing happen. And another shout out to the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory as one of the primary sponsors of this Natural History Symposium, helping us make it happen. Betsi communicates about oil spill science and policy to the public and gets youth engaged in oil spill prevention and awareness. She has been an environmental educator in Anchorage and the Kenai Peninsula, a kayak guide in Kenai Fjords and Prince William Sound, and managed outdoor education programs for teachers and youth. Welcome, Betsi.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. All right, as Paul said, I'm the outreach coordinator for the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council. And let me just get some slides up here. There we go. Great. I'm going to pull up so I can see the chat at the same time. So Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council, or RCAC for short. We were formed after the Exxon Valdez oil spill to represent the citizens of communities impacted by the spill. Let me get my slideshow started here. There we go. I'm not going to focus on the spill today. If you've been tuned in all morning, you've heard it mentioned by several of our other speakers already, so you can really start to get the sense of what an impactful event this was in our region. But I would invite, if into the chat box, if you were impacted in some way. And I know that there's a lifetime of touching and challenging stories of how people were impacted, but if you could share just like a line or a brief sentence, or even just a couple words of how you were impacted by the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And I'm going to come back to this in the chat. So find the chat box, let me know, where you were or what you were doing or how your life personally has been impacted by the spill. So about the RCAC, or the council I might call it, we have 18 board members representing the communities and user groups of the region, and technical committees of volunteer citizens who have particular interest or special expertise, like maritime operations or petroleum transport, marine toxicology. What do? We do environmental monitoring of the spill region. You can see in this map one rendering of where the oil spread to back in 1989. We provide oversight of the terminal, the Valdez Marine Terminal, and the tankers, their plans for prevention and response, as well as their drills and trainings. We make recommendations to industry and regulators about best practices, and we educate and inform the public about current practices. So that's what I'm doing here today. And what I'd really like to, whoops, I gotta click in the right window here to forward my slide. There we go. Maybe this will work. Here we go. So what I want to share about today is the Ship Escort Response Vessel System, or SERVS as we call it. And this is the entire world-class system that we have here in Prince William Sound for preventing and responding to crude oil spills. Just to back up a little bit, give some context. So we're talking about oil that comes from the oil fields on the North Slope. It goes into the Trans-Alaska pipeline system, 810 miles down to Valdez, to the Valdez Marine Terminal, or who we call it Marine Terminal or Terminal. And from there, it gets loaded up onto tankers. So this here is a tanker. And this sort of sideways scaffolding stuff is a loading berth. So the oil gets to the terminal. They've got massive tanks there to temporarily store it until it can go onto a tanker. And then From there, it heads out. So you can see on this slide that yellow dot is the marine terminal. And so tankers head out of the Port of Valdez through the Narrows, past Bly Reef here, out through Hitchinbrook entrance and out into the Gulf of Alaska. And from there, they mostly go to Washington and California to refineries there, although some does go directly to the refinery right there in Cook Inlet. So the Exxon Valdez, here's a picture of that ship a few days or weeks after the spill. You can see this line is boom, which is around the tanker trying to prevent any further spilled oil from getting out into the environment. For scale, this little guy right here is a fishing vessel. So you can get a sense of how massive this tanker is. And, you know, with such a big disaster, the kind where everyone remembers where they were when it happened. And let's see, I said I asked for some input in the chat. I've got Sandy says that she works as a logistics person to support science crews. Oh, and met met her future husband and had 2 kids. Courtesy of Joe Hazelwood, that's the captain of the tanker. So and I'm not sure. Sometimes the chat might get glitchy, but so if there's other folks who put their comments in, I'm not seeing them. But thank you, Sandy, for sharing your story. You know, one of the things that us as a council really feel is that sharing the impact of this spill makes a big difference, especially to the next generations and people who weren't there or directly impacted in the same way, to realize what a big impact this had. And also to really recognize the wins that happened in the laws around the transport of oil because of this disaster. We don't want to lose memory of the disaster and therefore let our laws and regulations get watered down over time, right? So let's dive into the prevention side of SERVs first, because of course the absolute only way to avoid impacts of oil to our oceans and our marine life is to keep it from spilling in the first place. It's estimated that only about 25 to 30% of oil that gets spilled is actually cleaned up, even in a best case scenario. So really, prevention is the name of the game. So I'm just going to cover a few highlights of the prevention system. This is, first of all, we have what's called the dual tug system. So this picture here, these are the new Edison Schwest tugs. And in this picture, they're doing an emergency tow maneuver. So what we're seeing, it's like you are in the wheelhouse of the tug where this picture was taken. And so we're looking out, this is the back of the tanker. It looks like the Polar Enterprise. This is a tow line. And here's that other tug over here. So this is a drill, a maneuver, but every laden tanker that transits through Prince William Sound has 2 escort tugboats that stay within a quarter-mile and visual sight to assist that tanker, because these tankers are massive. They are over 900 feet long. They carry approximately 63 million gallons of oil. Just for comparison, the Exxon Valdez spilled 11 million gallons of oil. So 63 million gallons of oil on this thing. If this tanker loses power or loses steering capacity, the last thing we need is for it to get fetched up on some rocks. So these tugs are here because they have the ability to arrest, by which I mean stop, or tow a tanker to take over its steering should that be needed. Another important part of the prevention system is this feature called a double hulled tanker. So both of these at the bottom are double hulled. There's a gap, there's a space, 2 layers of metal between the ocean and the oil. The Exxon Valdez was a single hulled tanker, and at that time that was quite normal. Prince William Sound was the first, or at least one of the first areas to require double hull tankers. And what's really great is that in the meantime, this has become worldwide best standard practice. By 2015, double hull tankers were phased out. Another feature is, and this is an interesting slide because this line actually shows the course of the Exxon Valdez. But I brought this slide in because I wanted to show you we have pilots, specially trained pilots who actually steer the tankers along this part of the line through the narrows. And in the old days, before '89, the pilots hopped off the tankers somewhere around in here after going through the narrows. And so when that ship ran aground on Bligh Reef down here, there was no pilot on board. Now the pilot stays on board all the way past Bligh Reef, and somewhere down here is where they depart the tanker, hand it over to the captain, and go back to the Valdez. And so that way we have local experts driving the tanker through the most hazardous region of the Sound. Another piece of prevention is weather monitoring. So this slide is actually a new buoy that's in the Port of Valdez. You can see the marine terminal behind it. And this is monitoring weather actually so that a better response can be made, so that we know what kinds of response equipment is needed to protect areas near the terminal. But there are, of course, weather buoys, NOAA weather buoys throughout the Sound and the North Gulf that provide us with weather data. The one at the Hitchinbrook entrance, you might know it as the Seal Rocks buoy. Anybody who listens to the marine weather will have heard their report out. Well, when the weather at the Seal Rocks buoy is above 15-foot seas or above 45-knot winds, that's a go or no-go decision point for the tankers to enter or leave Prince William Sound. So that's another piece of prevention, because if the sea state gets above those conditions, then those tugs lose the ability to control the tanker, as I mentioned before. So I'm going to move on now to some of the highlights of the response system, because of course, as wonderful as the prevention system is, it is possible, some would say even inevitable, to end up with spills. So we really need a robust system that is in place and is practiced. First, I'll highlight the barges. We have the largest purpose-built response barges in the world here in Prince William Sound. So this is a photo from on one of those barges. You can see these big rolls back here with this yellow stuff on it. That's boom. These are current buster booms. And what boom, you'll see in future slides better, I'll show you how boom works. And these are the cranes that will tow it. And these barges also have massive skimmers, which are equipment that's used to pick up oil off of the ocean surface. And these barges can hold oil. So if they need to pick oil up off the water, each one of these barges can hold about 4.7 million gallons of oil or oil and water mix. We have 8 of these barges in the SERVS system. Oops, wrong way on my slides here. Okay, so here's a picture. You can see that boom being deployed. And so here's scale. That's a fully grown live human person. These folks are filling this boom with air. And so this is that boom fully rolled out. And here it is deployed into the water, and this crane is hoisting. This is one of those skimmers that I was talking about. So this skimmer will come down into this kind of swimming pool area. And so the oil will get pulled from in here. These boats will tow it around. They kind of capture the oil. It comes down to the swimming pool where these skimmers will suck the oil off the surface of the water. And these barges are staged throughout the Sound so that they are ready in areas close to areas of potential spills. Okay, I didn't have a great photo of this handy, but also staged throughout the sound, we have connexes of spill response equipment. So this is inside one of those connexes. If you live in Prince William Sound or a downstream community like Kodiak or Homer, you have these in your area. They're staged throughout the sound for easy access to supplies. We also have these near our hatcheries, for example. Another very important part of the response system is our fishing fleet. We have over 400 fishing vessels who are contracted and trained to respond to an oil spill. So here's another style of boom. This is a smaller scale and another style of skimmer. So you can see we've got lots of different kinds of these. These are, of course, much smaller than the ones coming off the barge. These fishing crews are trained every year to be deployed if they're needed. And this is really a unique part of the system that we have here in Alaska. Without these vessels on contract, Alyeska wouldn't be able to meet its legal requirements for how it's prepared to respond to a spill. So we're very thankful for our fishing fleet and the many folks who get trained every year and are ready to respond if needed. So here's just, oops, sorry, I keep doing that. So here, again, you can see here's some smaller vessels towing this boom. We have a larger fishing vessel here. And what you can't see is that, right, so we see the skimmer would be in here, back in that little swimming pool. What you can't see in this picture is that on the other side of this fishing vessel is going to be what's called a mini barge. And here's a picture of a mini barge at a dock where they're doing some training, but it's just this big floating container where oil or oily water can go in. And so that's how we're going to get the oil to those larger barges from where it can either be recycled or disposed of, depending on the state of how weathered it is and a few other things. All right, another important part of our response system is these geographic response strategies. And this is another piece where our fishing vessels can play a big role. So this is just one corner of Prince William Sound. We do have these throughout the Sound. So if you're over in Whittier, we've got many of them over there. These are all specially pre-identified places as being sensitive areas. So salmon streams, wetlands, just areas that are determined to be extra important to protect from oil. And each of these areas has been investigated, and a strategy for how to best protect them is already written up. So here's a picture of a training. Some of these fishing fleet folks are setting up. So this is an area, an example of how we might use a geographic response strategy. So here's some floating boom out here, right? And then here we have some shore seal boom. So this guy is tying it off way above high tide line. So as the tide comes up or down here, if oil was to come this area, it wouldn't be able to get past this boom, which works like a floating fence for oil, so that what's on the other side is additionally protected. Okay, so I would be remiss if I didn't touch on what's going on, what I was calling behind the scenes, because as you can imagine, with this complicated of a system, we have a lot of players who are involved. Here's just a few of them, some of the big folks. So the Coast Guard and the EPA, they are representing the federal side of things, particularly the Coast Guard for any spill that's on the ocean. We have the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, or DEC. They're the arm of the state that oversees all of this. And then we have Alyeska Pipeline Service Company. They run the SERVS program that I've been talking about. We also have the tanker companies that are actually owning and running the ships that move the oil once it leaves the terminal. Over here, I put in just some examples of contingency plans. So every operator has to have a contingency plan, which is their very detailed place where they explain out their prevention and response plans and protocols and drill schedules and all of that. I'm kind of jumping around out of order here a little bit, but we have ourselves, and there's also a Cook Inlet RCAC who's involved with any oil operations from the Cook Inlet area, and then also tribal governments and other local entities. So the feds, the state, the industry, and these other citizen groups, we all work together to keep this system robust. There are regional plans held by these intergovernmental teams that really detail how the different levels of government will coordinate to assist in, manage, or oversee a spill. If you want to learn more about that, I'll pop it in the chat. It's called the Alaska Regional Response Team, and I'll give you their website here. There you go. So just to give you an example, one of the basic pieces of this plan is that when there's a large enough spill, something called a unified command gets stood up. And this is a 3-part team with the Coast Guard, DEC, and the responsible party who spilled the oil. And they work together with their teams to implement the best possible response. And we have something really unique in Alaska. Another unique thing in this area is the opportunity, if there's a large spill, for a regional stakeholders committee. And this would be a body of local entities, so like RCAC, local communities, tribal governments. They get to engage directly with that unified command for 2-way communication during a spill to identify areas of concern or available resources. So I'm going to put a plug in. We currently are working on a project where we're going to create some online resources explaining a little bit more about this whole process, in particular thinking about that regional stakeholders committee, so that if you live in this region, your small community or your entity can have access to those resources, so that if there's a large spill, you will know how your community, your emergency responders, your city governments, for example, can interact with that unified command, and how you can make your needs for your community known and your resources available to participate. So stay tuned for that. We're looking forward to having that out in the next year or so. Let's see. I put NOAA on here because they play such an important role, especially thinking about the weather systems I mentioned before. And there's a whole bunch of other agencies that get involved. The Forest Service, which is here today, the Department of Transportation, many of our land management agencies, and other groups that oversee different parts and pieces of it. But I just wanted to touch on some of the main pieces of that. So there was a quick overview of our prevention and response system here in Prince William Sound. We're very proud of the system here. Most of this was put into place after and because of the Exxon Valdez oil spill. There are tweaks and improvements over time, especially as equipment continues to change and be improved. Part of our job here at the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council is to stay very closely aware of the changes that are happening with the regulations, with the industry, to represent citizen voices to all of those players in the system, to make sure that this system stays really robust and continues to improve. So that is what I wanted to share. And if anyone has questions for me, just go ahead and put them in the question box.
Thank you, Betsi. I had a question. What has your organization modeled any probabilities of another spill?
You know, one thing our board president, Robert Archibald, often says is he likes to say, Mr. Murphy is always watching, if you know Murphy's Law. One thing that we really notice, and what came out of the Exxon Valdez spill, is this concept of the Swiss cheese effect, right? Where you have many, many layers of controls, and each layer has to be robust, because if there starts to be holes in any piece, you could end up with a hole that goes all the way through, and a big problem that results. And I realized I'm going to put my website as well, our website for the council in there, so that folks can head over there if they want to learn more too.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions? You can go ahead and type it in the chat box or in the ask the question. Then when now there's been a transition between response, the tug operators. How's that transition gone?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, Crowley was the company that had run the tugs and quite a bit of that served system as a contractor for the whole length of that system, over 30 years. And now we have a new contractor, Edison Schwest, and they brought in all purpose-built tugs, purpose-built barges, all new equipment, and did a lot of training and drills, especially that first year, and they have really done a great job. We've been really pleased with them.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Betsi, for your presentation and all your help with this Natural History Symposium online version, and the support of the Prince William Sound Citizens Advisory Council. So
absolutely, yeah. And if anybody has questions that they think of later or wants to get more involved, there's my email. I popped it into the chat.
Great.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep. Thank you. Next up, we're going to go back to Tim Lydon and Victor Shen with the municipality, the Whittier City, and they're going to talk about volunteer opportunities for folks interested in getting out and working in the Sound. While we're bringing Victor up, I'll go ahead and start introducing them. We're going to start with Victor. Victor is with the Whittier City Council and Whittier Parks and Recreation Committee. Victor grew up in Whittier. I knew Victor as a kid, I think. I first showed up on the scene helping me with some of my work out in the Sound. He left the state and earned a BS in Forestry Conservation and Wildlife Fire Management in Humboldt State University. He started guiding kayaking trips in Prince William Sound in 2004 and continues to do that to this day. He has spent a few summers working with the Forest Service and Chugach National Forest Wilderness Program and Mount Baker National Forest Wilderness Trail Crew. He also is a field instructor for the National Outdoor Leadership School and a trip leader for Alaska Geographic. He tutors high school students at a residential school, and he's our treasurer for our the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation and volunteers with Alaska Trail Stewards. So busy guy and a relatively new father. So Victor, welcome, and we look forward to hearing your talk.
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here again. I'm with the Whittier Parks and Recreation Committee, and I'm just going to load here a short PowerPoint on what I do with Whittier Parks and Rec. And did that open up there? Here we go. All right. Can you see that, Paul?
Yes, looks good.
Oh, thank you. So Whittier Parks and Recreation Committee. Well, we'll start with who are we? Well, we're not we are a subcommittee of the Whittier City Council. Everyone on there we're all volunteer run. And then volunteers have come from a variety of backgrounds. Some have been council members, just Whittier community members, and visitors, people outside of Whittier. What do we do? I guess right now we're not doing too much. We're trying to figure out what to do next in our our current situation, but I'm talking about what we've done in the past. So the kind of the meat and potatoes of our program right now, at least for the past few years, we've been running volunteer trail days, and with these trail days, we have been doing maintenance on existing trails in Whittier and constructing new trails. And these are all city trails on city lands. These are not trails like Portage Pass. That's the U.S. Forest Service trail. And but the trails that we have been working on have been these shorter ones that exist on city lands. This one is this picture is a trail of a current one we've been working on. It goes up behind Whittier and then it loops around. And if you ever hiked the Horsetail Falls Trail in Whittier, this will loop around near the Whittier Creek behind Whittier, and then it'll loop up and connect with it somewhere in the below the tree line, and it'll make it a complete loop. And this is a picture from the fall 2019. It's not glamorous work. It's pretty hard. It's building trails in the rainforest. It usually involves a lot of mud and moving a lot of rocks to make durable trails in our climate, our ecosystem. We have done the Whittier lands also extends out passage east out of Passage Canal toward Neptune Point, and here is a picture of some campsite hardening we've done in Emerald Bay. That's near Trinity Point, similar to what the Forest Service has done in Blackstone Bay. We have a lot of kayakers paddling in and out of Passage Canal, and this bay is a popular stopping or overnight point for those just leaving or about to enter into Whittier. But and so we've done some work out there. Some more pictures here. Picture there. We've also done some small projects around Whittier. We've constructed public use paddlecraft carts to help people move kayaks or sit on top kayaks or whatever they're paddling in down to the water and back to their cars. We've done some landscaping, or should I say beachscaping, at the head of the bay, which is a popular beach in Whittier that a lot of people use. As a matter of fact, the Whittier Community School just had their graduation ceremony there yesterday. For those of you in Whittier. We've also put on some educational events. For the past couple of years, we put on a bear awareness and safety class early in this mid-spring, early in the summer for residents and seasonal workers that come in and aren't used to living in bear country. And another component we do is a lot of vision and planning for Whittier. Whittier has, the city council has a lot of ambition for developing the economy in Whittier, and recreation is a huge component. So Whittier Parks and Rec, we've been part of that. This is a picture of a conceptual plan of our city park, which is just entering into its engineering phase. It's been probably a 4-year project right now. And lastly, we also partner with a lot of organizations to complete these projects, and some of these include the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation, Alaska Trail Stewards. A lot of our trail projects, we work with them. True Guide School District, we've worked with student groups from them. The Forest Service, Tim in particular, has helped us out with especially our Emerald Bay campsite hardening project. He gave us a lot of recommendations and consultation on how to do it. Overland Summer Adventures is an out-of-state program, and we've worked with their student groups to do some of these projects out in Shotgun Cove and Emerald Bay. And then Kenai Mountain Turning and Arm Heritage Area, they are a program that they provide grants to the Kenai Mountain and Turning and Arm area and have been many projects that they have funded in Whittier, and something a program that we work with. So how can you get involved as a volunteer? So they can start by checking us out on our Facebook social media page at Whittier Parks and Rec. Be warned that if you do a search, you also find Whittier, California. So make sure you get on the Whittier, Alaska Facebook page. Attend our meetings. Again, look for postings around town in Whittier. We'll also post on our Facebook page and the City of Whittier website. And there from our meetings, you can volunteer at our events. We try to put these up on social media and post around Whittier as well. You can help us organize our events. We always need help with that. Right now, the committee is pretty small. It fluctuates year to year, and right as of now, we have probably just 3 or 4 members. So we're always looking for more people to help out, whether it's digging in the dirt, helping us make phone calls to organize events and form partnerships. And lastly, vision and planning. Like I said before, Whittier has big, lots of dream or plans for developing our economy, and recreation being a big component. We do need help from people with vision and planning. We need ideas, suggestions, and to contribute. And how you can contact us through our Facebook page. You can also email us at councilseata@whittieralaska.gov if you're interested in getting involved. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Victor. This was Victor Shen with the Whittier City Council and with their trails. I was just at Emerald Cove the other day. Victor looked really nice. So thank you for doing that work. I don't think we have any questions for your write-up. Maybe we'll save questions toward when Tim is done. Okay?
Thank you, Paul.
All right, Tim, are you ready?
I'm
going to introduce Tim. And while I'm at it, I look like I'm going to introduce someone else there. Who do you got there, Tim?
Right. So we're going to talk about volunteering in Prince William Sound. This is my daughter, Stella. Say hi, Stella. Hi. Stella's helped out on a lot of volunteer projects. And Stella, what did you get from one of your volunteer projects? You want to show this? So Stella's been on some beach cleanups in Prince William Sound, and one of the smallest buoys we found, she got to turn into a piece of artwork here in the house. And like many of you, Barbara and I are at home with kids the last number of weeks, but also like a lot of you, our love for Prince William Sound is very all family inclusive. And introducing Stella because we also welcome families on our volunteer projects. So Stella, say bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
we'll go through some. Thanks, Stella.
So for a reminder, for those of you who missed the last session, Tim Lydon is with the Forest Service, with the Chugach National Forest, Glacier Ranger District. He runs the wilderness program, along with his wife, Barb, who's also been a very critical part of the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation. So take it away, Tim.
Thanks, Paul. So I'm going to try to share another window on Chrome here. We'll see if that works. But what I'm going to do is run through some volunteer opportunities we have in 2020 and their collaboration between the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation and the Forest Service. And so let me see if I can bring up another window on Chrome here. I think I can. I think I can. So I'm sharing this screen, but on my screen, it's still showing me. Okay, there we go. I think that it's starting to work now. Okay, so Paul, hopefully we're looking at the Stewardship Foundation website, right?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay, great, thank you. So what I wanted to do is share with you this this website here, the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation, princewilliamsound.org. And on that page, there's a Get Involved button. And if you drop down from that, you can look at and sign up for the volunteer projects. But actually, I think all I can do is share this, but not navigate it, it looks like. So that's okay. Just want to show you guys the website. And what I'm going to do now is share some photos of the project. I really encourage you to visit this website. It's got a lot of great information and more information coming for opportunities to learn about Prince William Sound and become engaged in projects out there. So I'm back now, and I'm going to move over to a number of slides here. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick run through of these volunteer projects from the Stewardship Foundation in the Chugach National Forest. And here again is the website that you can go to learn about these. And I should say too, because of COVID-19, obviously everything this summer is in flux. That's the first thing. When you go to the website there, you'll see that there's a banner that things may change. And then the other thing to know is that any projects, this is a scaled down summer schedule for our projects due to COVID. And any projects we have to offer, we are offering them because we believe we can do them in a way that protects everybody's health and safety related to COVID. So you'll see that on the website too, that there's that's being taken really seriously with these projects. So a couple of things related to invasives this summer. There's invasives dandelion removal from Hobo Bay, June 12 to 14. And as it turns out, the Forest Service likely won't be a partner in that one, but and that's due to COVID. But that's still going to happen according to the foundation. And then we hope to do the annual Whittier slug out, trying to knock back that population of invasive black slugs in the Whittier area. And this picture is from last year. Some families enjoyed us. Kids love collecting slugs. Also thanks to the Kenai Watershed Forum that also helped with that last year. And the city of Whittier and local companies such as Alyeska Sea Kayakers. So a couple of things on invasives. And if you've been in Blackstone Bay, you've probably stopped by 17 Mile Beach, really probably the most popular place to camp in Western Prince William Sound. And in the last few years, we've done some really great restoration there, and there's more restoration to come. So we're thankful to Alaska Geographic, Student Conservation Association, and the Stewardship Foundation for helping us with this work. This is a newly minted campsite as of about a year ago. You see all that light in the background there? That's from a big blowdown that happened in the winter of 2018-19. So this site, if you haven't been there lately, is quite changed. There's a lot more sunlight getting in, which is going to help keep it drier. As you might know, it's a mucky spot. But here's some real nice campsite restoration work that was done there that also enhanced the opportunities for camping. And now, the way these volunteer projects were happening in the past, pre-COVID, was that the Forest Service was helping the Stewardship Foundation get volunteers to the site. And we're not going to be able to do that this year because we really don't see how we can use our small Forest Service vessels to safely transport people in the era of COVID. We think that water taxis and private vessels are much better for this year. So while we don't have that transport to offer, we do have some pretty sweet, generous deals from Lazy Otter charters on how to access any of these projects that I'm going over here. You can go to the website, you can contact the Stewardship Foundation, and you're welcome to call me as well to learn more about that water taxi offer. And we really love to have people show up in our private vessel, in your private vessels, where you can help us for 1 day, 2 days, 4 days, whatever you would like, as we continue to restore the 17-mile area. Marine debris cleanup, we'll have 2 of those this summer. And the first one is June 27 to 29 down in the Elrington area and other parts of Southwest Sound. These are really, really fun events. In the past, the Forest Service was assisting with transportation on our vessels. We won't be doing that this year, but we do welcome people that want to join us in your private vessels or join us by kayak. If you're out in that part of the Sound, you can help us collect garbage. Those are really big collection zones. We've had help with the U.S. Coast Guard sector of Valdez. And of course, we're informed by the experts at NOAA and Gulf of Alaska Keeper on where to collect. And we're doing a 3-year rotational schedule through the center of the Sound in areas where there's a lot of help needed. So as Stella was showing you, these awesome buoys and other things, we have flower pots now from the plastic buoys, like the one that Sabrina is holding right here. You can cut these in half and make awesome hanging flower pots, or we have door stoppers in a house and other things. But they're just fun, the treasures you find, and they're incredibly rewarding trips because you leave these beaches visibly better than they were before. Just some more stuff we found in the Sound. Here's a couple of Girdwood residents that helped us on some projects last year. This year, from July 7 to 10, we have the Shore Lake Cabin blocked out, and we're looking for a few volunteers to join us. You can stay at the cabin. We'll be doing some light maintenance on the trail that runs from Long Bay and Culross Passage all the way to the Shore Lake Cabin and then out to Three Finger Cove in Cochrane. So there's going to be some really fun, rewarding work there. You can use the cabin, and we believe we can do this project in a way that's COVID safe as a partnership between the Stewardship Foundation and the Forest Service. And then immediately following that is another beach cleanup, and that one I didn't put in here because I thought I'd be working through the website, but that one will be on East Night Island immediately following, so that would be probably July 10 through 12. And again, we welcome private boaters. If you're out fishing in the Night Island, the Touche, Montague, wherever you are, and you want to join us on East Night Island between July 10 and 12, I might have that slightly wrong. Just go look at the website. We'd love to have you. You can join us for a day or join us for all 3 days, and really fun, rewarding work. And then there's citizen science opportunities available all summer. And this one too is good to know, just for the future reference, that the Forest Service, to promote this citizen science, we are offering some limited transports for people that are going to help us with some of this. This year, we're unable to do that because of COVID. But people kayaking in the Sound, fishing out in your own boat, whatever, or participating in our other projects, you can also help us with citizen science related to site condition. We have a protocol where you can download data on your cell phone into an app that automatically gets entered into an access database managed by the Forest Service. And also you can help us with identifying visitor trends and opportunities for solitude in different parts of the Sound, which is a really fun, fascinating way to spend some time on a beach, looking at something you wouldn't ordinarily look at and getting a new little angle on the Sound, and also participating in a way that you're helping with the area's management. So a couple other things to mention if you want to get involved in Prince William Sound. I encourage you again to go to our website. You can also like the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation on Facebook. And a really important tool on Facebook, the Stewardship Foundation has set up a Prince William Sound forum, and you have to ask to join that. But right now it has about 700 members. And the purpose of the forum is just to share your stories and adventures and knowledge in Prince William Sound. But also, the Forest Service and the Stewardship Foundation feel that this is a great way to build community among Prince William Sound fans and users and residents. Because when we find areas where maybe there's some garbage or a lot of marine debris or a safety issue, we can put that out on the forum and get a lot of feedback from different people in the public. And then another one that is not here on the schedule, but I believe is described on the Stewardship Foundation's website, is a one of these garbage bag programs. Pete Denmark of Alaska Sea Kayakers, who is also a board member of the Stewardship Foundation, and Kelly and Mike Bender over at Lazy Otter Charters, and a lot of other companies in Whittier have these large yellow Alpar bags for you. So when you're heading out, launching your boat in Whittier, or you're going to go on a kayak trip, you can bring along some of these yellow bags. And when you're walking the dog on a beach or having a campfire on the beach, you can clean that beach. And if it fits in your kayak or fits in your boat, bring the garbage out. But if it doesn't, you can put that garbage bag well up above the high tide line, photograph its location, take a GPS, and you can send it to, you can post it on the Prince William Sound Forum on Facebook. You can email it to me. You can share it with the foundation through the website, and the Forest Service, in the course of doing our work in the Sound, will track down those bags and bring them out. In other words, you'll clean a beach, but maybe it's too much, big pieces of foam or whatever that you can't fit on your boat, or maybe you just don't want to trash your boat with these pieces of foam you find out there. But we'll go out, you pick them up, tell us where it's at, and we'll go out there and pick it and get it off the beach. Or if you're on a kayak trip, the same thing. We've had outfitter guide groups like Knowles, Alyeska deserves a really big thank you here for man, they dug out, they must have spent some hours digging out a fishing net from one of the beaches down south of East Chamois last year. That Knowles and other outfitter guides have helped quite a bit with that idea of cleaning beaches and then contacting the Forest Service or the water taxis and others and trying to get that garbage out of there. Sorry, as I navigate a few screens. So that's what I wanted to offer you. I really encourage folks to get in touch either with me at the Forest Service or through the Stewardship Foundation, and we can really build even more community in Prince William Sound.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, there was one question in the chat, and I'll pull it up here. It's given the recent USGS report on Berry Arm instability and potential landslide, how will that affect volunteer opportunities and sites?
Yeah, right. Stay tuned. Yeah, so that's really, really interesting news out of Harriman Fjord, and so this summer we already weren't going to do our dandelion pull in Harriman because of COVID, and I do wonder if volunteer projects in Harriman, I have a feeling we'll think pretty hard about whether we offer those or not as we learn more about the hazard up there.
Great, thanks. We did try to get someone with USGS to join us, but it's so last minute. It's possible we might have an additional, just do a separate little interview with someone and put it up on our website. But a big unknown out there that we're all looking forward. Any other questions for Victor or Tim? Not seeing
Hey, when Paul brings up Berry Arm, it's just a good opportunity to also talk about that recurring landslide that's happening on the south edge of the Cox Glacier at formerly, well, still known as Black Sand Beach, but all the black sand's gone. But Berry Arm has some pretty big hazards right now. And if you're not familiar with the landslides happened by Cox, you're always welcome to call me. But those in the last, they've been recurring almost annually for 6 years and have completely rearranged and buried large parts of Black Sand Beach and that big delta there. So yeah, that's really turned out to be quite an active area.
I have a question for both of you, and then we'll wrap it up and move into our lunch break. Are there any plans for like pit latrines or that kind of outhouses like I was at Emerald a week ago, and there was some toilet paper and stuff. So I have a question if there's any other thoughts about pit latrines, more pit latrines.
What do you think, Victor?
That's a challenge that we are I feel like we're constantly working on a solution to it. I heard that Piggott Bay cabin had a new pit toilet installed last summer. I'm curious to see how it's holding up over the past year and stuff. But yeah, I've done some research on what can be put out there and what is like feasible to maintain and is what is appropriate for our ecosystem and for our climate. So
Thanks.
You
Some of your
know,
thoughts?
yeah, Blackstone Bay 17 mile, there's been requests for many years from the public and from outfitter guides to have some kind of pit toilet there because human waste in that limited spot really is an issue. And so the Forest Service has been looking at that and even did some public scoping in the fall, and that public scoping resulted in a lot more favorable comment. And so the Forest Service has not officially agreed to do that, but I'm going to go out on a limb and I'd say that there's reason to be optimistic that in the coming term here, year or two, you might see a pit toilet at 17 mile. And I think that'd be a great place for one because of the limitations of that site. And yeah, check out these awesome new latrines at Piggott and Paulson Bay Cabins. And I'm not sure if it's at Harrison or not yet, but they're new ways of trying to deal with that. As Victor's saying, it's a challenging issue in that ecosystem because of shallow soils and a lot of rain. But stay tuned also for Blackstone Bay.
Great, guys. Thank you very much for this session on volunteer opportunities. A lot to get involved out there. This summer, obviously, is up in the air with the pandemic, but still, the Yellow Band Project, there's a lot of opportunities for boaters and other people to help out in many, many ways. And again, the foundation's website, Prince William Sound, .org, you can find out ways to get involved.
One more question there. I don't know if we got that one.
Oh, we got another question. Thank you.
For Tim.
Oh yeah, can travelers still get WAG bags at the U.S. Forest Service office in Goodwood or elsewhere?
Yeah, what a great question. Yeah, so and I wish I had mentioned that. So thank you for that prompt. Yeah, the Forest Service has a free loan program for WAG bags. And even the backcountry toilet system, you can borrow those. I think we have 3 of those, but we have many WAG bags and also bear cans. If you don't have bear cans and you're heading out to the Sound, you can rent them for free. It's a free loan program out of our Girdwood office. But again, to highlight Lazy Otter charters in Whittier and Alaska Sea Kayakers, and I think that Epic charters in Whittier is also offering those bear cans, WAG bags, and you can always call the Forest Service office to learn more about that. But we plan to continue that this summer.
Great. Is that something someone needs to call in advance for?
Oh yeah, that's a really good idea to call in advance for them to see if we can set some aside for you because like 4th of July or any other weekend in the summer, sometimes all of that is checked out. We have enough WAG bags, but the bear cans, we might only have about maybe 20 or 30, and they do all get checked out at times.
Great. All right, thank you very much. That concludes our morning sessions. We have a half-hour break. If there'll be a break session, you can hang out and you'll get pulled into it with some, basically a bunch of pretty pictures. My challenge to you, I put this together last night, is if you can identify where the pictures are taken. It's from all over the Sound, not just Western Prince William Sound, but over on the eastern part also. And then we'll be back at 1 o'clock. You'll have a new host. I believe Tim Lydon will be your host, and also with Kelly Bender with Lazy Otter Charters will be hosting this afternoon. But at 1 o'clock, we'll start up with the ecological effects of a warming climate on the Kenai Peninsula and Prince William Sound. Dr. John Morton, who I believe typed in the chat box that he'll be talking about the Berry landslide. So look forward to that. We will see you in a half hour, and we'll be ending this show and moving into our lunch slideshow.